is Vivian Green-Freed. I'm a professor at Vanderbilt University of Art History, American Studies, and Gender and Women's Studies. I will be giving lectures in conjunction with the exhibition of the At Home Project. The At Home on Tour exhibition documents the At Home Project. The At Home Project was a result of Judy Chicago and Donald Woodman teaching a semester-long course at Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky during the fall semester 2001. These students transformed each of the rooms into a series of installations dealing with various themes having to do with the home, domesticity, marriage, issues related to the home in Kentucky. This project is related to an earlier project that Judy Chicago had worked on along with Miriam Shapiro in 1971 at Cal Arts in California. This project investigated what it is like to be at home in Kentucky for men, women, and children. The At Home Project also addresses similar themes having to do with domesticity and sexuality, but there are new themes that these third wave feminists brought into attention. The At Home Project also addressed themes that had to do with the home and marriage, but they expanded upon these issues, addressing domestic violence, incest, rape, masculinity, as well as aging and eating disorders. Masculinity, which was not evident in the earlier Woman House, derives from the fact that male as well as female artists worked on this project. The concern about masculinity derives from the men's movement, which was influenced by the feminist movement. That is, both men and women are socially and culturally constructed, and these student artists were interested in exploring how both masculinity and femininity are constructed in our 21st century in the United States. She had developed feminist art pedagogy earlier with Miriam Shapiro while working at Cal Arts. She continued this approach to teaching in which she would encourage her students to focus upon the content of their art and allow that content to be the major aspect of their process. The process also included reading, consciousness raising, and discussing various issues. Her art pedagogy encouraged cooperation. The photojournalism students worked with Donald Woodman in order to document the project, which you're going to be able to see today on this video. The result is a powerful exhibition which deals with various issues concerning domesticity, marriage, the family, and the home. See the process of exhibition and the installation in preparation for seeing the exhibition. Western Kentucky University's Professor of Arts, John Oakes, and Andy Rudloff have put together this video so that you can see the process of the exhibition and the installation in preparation for seeing the exhibition.
Hi, I'm Judy Chicago. John Oakes asked us to answer a series of questions that he thought would be of interest to viewers of the At Home Traveling Project. The At Home Project was developed 30 years after Woman House, which was a project that I did with students from the California Institute of the Arts in 1971 with the artist Miriam Shapiro. The program, the feminist art program at Cal Arts, was based on the program I started at the California State University at Fresno in 1970. It was a pioneering program that was a way of helping young women find their own personal content. 30 years later, we were invited to revisit the subject of the home at Western Kentucky University. One of the major differences between the At Home Project and the Woman House Project, of course, was that the At Home Project was team taught by a man and a woman, Donald Woodman and me, and 1/3 of the class was male.
Hi, I'm Donald Woodman, and I would like to talk to you a little bit about the experience I had with my students working on the documentation of the at-home project. People have asked how it was that Judy and I collaborated together on this project. Well, we've had a lot of experience collaborating together in making art. We spent 8 years working on the Holocaust project, which was an inquiry into the meaning of the Holocaust in the contemporary context. We share many of the same values, and we have many skills which are complementary to each other. I feel that it was really important as a role model to have a man and a woman cooperating in the team teaching of the class. The roles that we represented created a positive role model for our students, and in particular for the male students of the class.
Some people ask about how we were able to balance our own artistic integrity and lives as artists with the students' content and their project, but this was actually never an issue. This project was not about us as artists. Our role was as facilitators, helping the students find their own content and their own subject matter. Our lives as artists was spent in our studios where we worked every day, and then we would go to the at-home project. It was very clear the distinction between our lives as artists and our role as facilitators in the at-home project.
It was important for the students who documented the project to both participate in and to observe and record the process of content search, which was the foundation for the topics explored in the at-home project. Understanding the path taken to reach the topics was the insight needed to record the subject. The photographers not only recorded the process, but learned to contribute and to become co-collaborators, in many of the rooms lending a hand where their skills were needed. The room panels give a fairly accurate record of the transformation of the house into the final project. No one medium can give the complete story, but the concept that the students chose in doing both portrait panels as a way to introduce the viewer to the participants and the room panels to show the process of transforming the rooms presents an in-depth picture of the project.
Donald talked about content search, which brings me to wanting to discuss how the class was actually structured. For the first week, the students showed slides of their work and talked about their home life, what family and home meant to them, domestic space, domesticity. Then, and that was not only so that they would become aware of each other's and learn about each other's work, but it was also a way of building trust and establishing a kind of group support network, because as the students began to talk about their lives and their work and their intentions, the other students began to understand where each student was coming from. And so later on, when people were working on subjects, sometimes very personal or meaningful subjects, that knowledge helped the students provide support for each other, which they needed. Then the next step was what Donald mentioned, which was content search, which was starting to talk about the issues that each student was interested in. And if there were common issues or common content, that often led to the students deciding to work collaboratively. Whereas if somebody had a very specific content that they wanted to address and other students weren't interested, that usually led to an individual project. Then there was the next step was that we helped the students deal with matching their content to a space. So for example, one person wanted to talk about eating disorders and had of course the idea of using scale. In fact, two people wanted to talk about that. So they wanted to use a scale. So that of course leads to the idea of a bathroom, because you usually have a scale in a bathroom. Anyway, once the content and the rooms were connected and the spaces divided up among the students, there was a certain kind of negotiation that went on around that. Then the art making began. That was after the first month. Then the rest of the semester, 3 months, was completely focused on intensive art making, which then Donald and I helped the students do to the best of their abilities.
For the students, living in the South obviously had a tremendous influence on their lives. What we discovered was that the students had many secrets. We come from the North, and in the North, people generally go to the therapist and reveal their secrets, but what we learned is that our students didn't do this, and a lot of their secrets were kept inside them. So during the process of talking about their art and their lives, a lot of these secrets came out. As these truths were revealed and the students' real lives came to the forefront, we were shocked. But it was our job to help the students transform their truths into art.
One challenge in the At Home project was fusing the wide range of experiences and ages into a coherent whole. The age range in the class was between 18 and 62, and that meant that there was also a wide range of abilities. Some people, actually, some of the younger people had no experience with art critiques and tended to take them personally. And one thing that we had to do was make a definite separation between our own aesthetic expectations for ourselves and our expectations for the students. After all, not only was there this issue of diverse ages and experiences, but also the participants were in a fairly isolated part of the country. And I'm sure very few of them had any experience with charged subject matter, so that meant that they could not possibly anticipate some of the emotional reactions of the viewers when they saw the rooms. But one thing that we thought was really great was that the fact that there was such an incredible reaction to the At Home project among viewers taught both the students and the viewers about the potential power of art.
Gender definitely figured in both the class discussion and the finished work, especially the fact that the men sat through the discussion of the women's lives, and the women told about what their real lives were like. And in a sense, that gave the men permission to also reveal their secrets and reveal about how their lives were, and brought them more in touch with how they really felt about their life experiences. A lot of the rooms dealt with specifically gendered issues, like the kitchen, which was the heart of the home, or the eating disorder bathroom, which dealt with issues which were central to women's lives. And these are issues that women have been dealing with in their art since the Women House experience in the 1970s. But also in the mixed gender situation of the At Home project, there were issues that were central to some of the younger men's lives, like murderous sibling rivalry, which I'd never seen explored before. And also the issues around abuse and rape, which we think only of in terms of the female gender, but also are affected both men as perpetrators and as victims. In terms of the students, though, I think the shared experience of having to sit through the discussions of both male and female gendered experiences was an important experience, and one which was very unique to the At Home project.
I want to talk for a minute about feminist art pedagogy, which I developed in Fresno and have practiced over the years. And of course, when I developed it, it was in the context of the idea that women could not be themselves if in the presence of men. And as Donald mentioned, this proved not to be true at all. I was really glad to see that in the At Home project. And what it demonstrated was that feminist pedagogy can be applied equally to men and to women. And it definitely provided the underpinnings for the At Home project. Feminist art pedagogy is a content-based pedagogy in which the teacher acts as facilitator with the goal of helping each student express his or her own personal content through whatever technique, media, or form is most appropriate. One could say that feminist art pedagogy is about trying to help each student find his or her own voice, then help them turn towards excellence of expression.
When you first went to the At Home project, you saw what looked like a typical middle-class suburban house. As you walked into the door, you entered the now and then living room. And what I remember the most vividly about that living room is the wall on which there were a series of televisions. Playing on the televisions were various tapes. Many of the tapes were commercials that one would see on television every day. There was a voiceover, and the voiceover let us know really what the commercials are about. So that, for example, you would have one commercial that would be about selling a car with a beautiful woman standing in front of the car. The voiceover would not be encouraging you necessarily to buy the cool car, but it would be instead telling you, take a look at my beautiful body, take a look at my beautiful breasts. Don't you want my body? If you want my body, then you need to buy this car because I will be attracted to the car, which will lead me to you. So the voiceover was really making it very clear that we are inundated daily with these images on television that have to do with the emphasis upon female sexuality and how that female sexuality is available to the male viewer for a particular price. The Golden Dreams bedroom was a bedroom of an aging parent, an aging person. It had purple walls, and there were golden shoes in the closet, which were trophies of this person. It made you think about aging. It made you think about the process of getting older. It made you think about memories that somebody had about their younger life, and the realization that in our culture, as you get older, often we need to live with our families, we need to live with our children, or we need to live in a nursing home because we can no longer be independent. This room is vividly dealing with that issue. The history dining room had information based on the history of various families who lived in that particular house. There were photographs along the wall and various written commentaries telling us about the families, telling us about the history of the families, telling us about their lives living in this house. It makes it clear that a family could live in a house for a very long period of time. It could be 25 years, it could be 50 years, but that eventually another family is going to be moving into this house, and that house is going to be the center for that particular family. The dining room had various objects that viewers could take away with them or add to. And it made it clear that we were also participants in this house. When we entered the house, we became members of the family. We added things to the family. We took things away from the family, just as this happens every day within a home. The heart of the home kitchen was not very different from the kitchen in Woman House, making it clear that usually the woman is tied to the kitchen and overwhelmed in the process. So there was food that was just coming out of the pots in abundance, either suggesting that the woman didn't have control or the woman felt overwhelmed by the experience. There were various items of food that were made out of clay, and they were hard, they were plastic. They were suggesting that the food was either processed food or it was cooked too long, or that the person is caught in a rut in terms of cooking the same thing over and over and over again. This kitchen also had an eating disorders bathroom. This bathroom is something that you would not have had in Woman House because the issue of eating disorders was not something that our culture was really aware of, or at least allowing ourselves to be aware of. The eating disorder bathroom was filled with various items. There were books about dieting, the Atkins diet, Fat is a Feminist Issue, as well as other books that we obsessively purchase because we want to lose weight. There were products that you could buy in a pharmacy that promised us that we were going to lose weight. There were other food items that you could purchase that were low fat or low carbos. And this closet made us aware that in our culture we have problems with eating disorders, that many of the girls as young as 8 and 9 in our culture have eating disorders such as bulimia, anorexia, or compulsive binging. Not only this, but it made us aware that these little girls became young adults. They became teenagers, they became adults, and continued having eating disorders. Furthermore, in our culture, men are increasingly experiencing problems with eating disorders. So this closet is making us aware of a cultural problem that we all have to be aware of, because we are so obsessed with our bodies, both men and women, how we look, whether we're fat or we're too skinny, whether we have the right biceps or we have a bulging stomach, that we obsess about our bodies. And the eating disorder closet, combined with the commercials that were constantly playing in the living room, made us aware of the fact that the commercials that we see, the models that we see, are not real people, that they are worked over by computers so that a woman's body is made even smaller. And sometimes there are male models that we see who are pretending to be women, and their bodies are really skinny because they don't have the hips and the breasts that we women are supposed to have. As you went up the staircase, which was called the journal staircase, you would see various quotes from students who worked on the project. This is different from Woman House, where at the top of the staircase there was a bride wearing a bridal dress with a long train that went all the way down the stairs leading to the kitchen, making it clear that she was chained to the kitchen. But in the at-home project, this staircase was really emphasizing the students who were working upon this project, telling us something about their lives, telling us something about their experiences while they were working on it. At the top of the staircase, there was a camera, and you could see yourself on the camera, making us aware that in our culture there are cameras in stores as we shop, so that we're not stealing something, making us aware that we have surveillance cameras in various aspects of our lives, and making us aware that we are so conscious of how we act and how we dress ourselves in various situations, that we're always performing in front of people, and we're performing in front of people who are sort of like cameras, and we're aware of being looked at and being judged, so we're always presenting ourselves for the various people who are going to be looking at us in the same way that this camera is looking at us in this particular home. The meditation bathroom is a space in which the bathtub is filled with sand. There's a rake and various rocks. This is very similar to a Japanese meditation garden, and it's making us aware of the fact that the bathroom is often a space that we go in to take a bath or a shower, to disappear from the real world for a while, to meditate, to find some inner peace, to turn within ourselves for a couple of moments before we go back out there in the world. The adolescent bedroom was another incredibly powerful space in which there were 2 bunk beds, suggesting that there were 2 boys who shared this room. On the wall, there were figures drawn that were clearly fighting. And then inside the closet were all these items that a boy could not play with. Dolls, dresses, stuffed animals. So the actual bedroom was showing the intensity of masculinity based on violence, struggle, showing a man's strength, while the closet itself was showing quote-unquote feminine objects that boys were not supposed to play with and that was shut off to them. The parental bedroom is the bedroom of a husband and wife, and the bedroom is both letting us know that it is a space of love, it is a space for making love, but it's also a space in which conflict takes place. This is especially underscored by the domestic abuse closet. When you looked in this closet, you saw dresses that were hanging up, and written all over the dresses were various phrases and various narrations about a woman who clearly is experiencing domestic violence within the home. The shoes also had words written in them, and then hanging on the closet door was a poster. Supposedly, when you first looked at it, it was a poster of a beautiful woman who was advertising some kind of dress. But as you look closely at this woman's body, you realize that there were bruises covering the body, and again there were words. The narration followed along the lines of, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to get you upset, please forgive me, I promise I won't ever do this again. You promised me you wouldn't hit me again, I know you didn't mean it, please forgive me, I don't want to go through this again." It was a very, very moving space. Another moving space was a nightmare nursery. This was clearly a child's bedroom. When you walked in, you saw these footprints on the floor. They were really, really big. They were dark like shadows. And then looming over the bed in the ceiling was a hand that was also a shadow. And it was making it clear that this space was not a safe space for a child. This was further underscored by the windows that were painted black, and scratched into the windows were words such as, "Help me, mommy, mommy, help me." There were other words written all over the ceiling and the walls, as well as blocks, little blocks that a child would play with that would spell out words. And the words were along the lines of ugly, stupid, help me, hate me. As you looked at this room, it became very clear that this is a space in which there is no safety. It became clear that this is a space in which incest had taken place. It was clear that there was either a male or female perpetrator, for the perpetrator was not clearly identified by the shadows. And it also didn't clarify what the sex of the child was. It could have been a boy or a girl. But this oppressive space in which somebody is screaming out, help me, makes it clear that incest takes place within suburbia in the United States, and it makes it clear that children are helpless when adults are participating in sexual activities with these children. It also hinted that a child really hates himself or herself because the ugly and things like that could be something that the parent says, it could be something that a peer says, it could be something that a child says to himself or herself, because very often a child who has experienced incest feels as if he or she is responsible for it. They feel as if they're a bad person, and this room made all of this very, very clear. When you walked out of the house and entered the garage, you walked into another incredibly oppressive space. This is the rape garage, and when you walked in, there was a bed that was at an angle against a shattered mirror. On the bed, there were a multitude of photographs derived from pornographic magazines, and you were just overwhelmed with the number of pornographic images showing women performing fellatio, women having sex with other women, looking at women's breasts, looking at various private parts of women, looking at various private parts of men. And you were just inundated over and over and over again with these pornographic images, suggesting that we, in fact, in our everyday lives, are inundated by such images, whether or not we're aware of it. Be it television at 7 o'clock when you think you're supposed to let your children watch TV, but then all of a sudden there's a sex scene and you're pretty shocked. Or if you're in a grocery store and you're with a young child and there in front of you is a magazine in which all you can see is a woman's naked body, or a woman's body with an emphasis upon various parts of her body that emphasize her sexuality, her seductiveness, her attraction. In this space along one wall were photographs of the individuals who participated in the rape garage. And included in those photographs is a photograph of a man who had experienced rape. It's not male on male rape, it's female on male rape, a subject like the subject of rape that is silenced in American culture. In fact, the rape garage is separate from the house because it's letting us know that rape is this secret. It's not supposed to be discussed. We're not supposed to talk about it. We're not supposed to admit it if any of us have experienced rape. We're certainly not supposed to talk about the difficulty we have in living our lives. We cover it up. We have it in a separate space. But the rape garage makes it clear that the separate space is never going to be like the meditation bathroom. It is never going to be one of calm and peace. It is always going to be like that shattered mirror. It's going to be fragmented, broken. It's going to be suggesting that our own bodies are broken and hurt. And the Rape Garage is making it clear that rape can happen to both men and women, something that is really quite new in our culture's recognition and realization. The Rape Garage also has various documents that tell you about the statistics of rape, and then on another wall are various instruments of power that you would find in a garage. There would be a hammer or some other object, but it made it very clear that these images were both phallic, but they're also items that somebody could use in order to harm a person in the process of raping him or her. When one walked downstairs, one entered the so-called prejudice basement. Narrow spaces, dark, lots of boxes, and lots of various sculptures and other drawings, works of art that make it clear that prejudice is the basis of our culture. It is the basement of the home, it is the foundation of the home, it is the foundation of our culture. There's prejudice against minorities, there's prejudice against people of color, there's religious prejudice that occurs in our culture. It's something that is dealt with in a very open manner that is condemning prejudice in our culture and making it clear that if we don't think about things that we say, things that we do, that we ourselves may be participating in prejudicial actions that could be harming another person, something we may not be aware of, but something that is the basis of our culture. This is a subject that was not found in Woman House. The other themes not found in Woman House, such as domestic violence, rape, incest, sibling rivalry, constructions of masculinity, all of this is a result of not the second wave of feminism, which was the Woman House, but the third wave of feminism. The students who are younger than Judy Chicago are individuals who were brought up with the feminist movement, who are aware of the feminist movement, and they are bringing different issues to the feminist movement in the 21st century.
All in all, considering all of the hard work and the process by which the students had to struggle with the subject matters that they were dealing with and the varying skill levels, the at-home project ended up being quite a success for both the students and the audience.
I mean, the students worked hard, they learned a lot, and they produced art that deeply affected many of the viewers. I don't guess one can ask too much more than that from a one-semester project.
Nope, and I think the students will have had an experience that will last them a lifetime.